Do I sound like I'm trying to be black? The reason I asked that question is because since I started my channel, The Pen and the Shank, where I talk about all things crime and prison related, I've had a few comments where someone said I sounded like I was trying to be black. It was either 2 or 3 comments. And one of them specifically, I decided to pull up, and I'm going to show it to you right here. And it's from a guy named Richard MC Dunn 19669. And we're going to jump straight into this conversation. And as I'm talking, you can discern and decipher for yourself if you think I do indeed sound like I'm trying to be black, or that once I read this comment, I have a speech impediment, because that was the 2 things that Richard MC Dunn 19669 said that he assumed about me. This is what he said, and it's a quote. "This dude has a speech impediment, or is he trying to sound black? Some people shouldn't have access to the internet." So according to Richard, if you don't sound like he thinks you should sound, or you're not saying what he thinks you should say, you shouldn't have access to the internet. Therein lies the problem. Richard is trying to suppress, or believes that people should be suppressed in what they say and don't say, according to what he feels. Richard is a bumbling idiot, a buffoon, a moron, a dummy, stupid, foolish, right? But the biggest picture that I'm trying to paint here is my voice, the words that come out of my mouth. And I don't have any specific direction for this video. The only thing that I have is a point that I'm going to keep talking, because I want you, the viewer, to type in the comments if I sound like I'm trying to be black. Now let's get into this trying to be black thing. One, I'm not sure what I replied to Richard, but I felt like it was an interesting topic to cover, because I always wanted to go back and address some of negative comments. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to them. Listen, I believe you can have whatever comment you want. Richard MC Dunn can say whatever he wants. I believe in free speech. I believe you can express yourself and say what you want, how you want, when you want. Now, sometimes depending on what you say, there could be consequences to it. There's consequences to everything we do, right? Every action has a reactive action from others. So you could say the wrong thing and there have negative consequences in your life to what you said. So you should be mindful on what you say. You need to consider other people's feelings. You need to consider the weight and the gravity of what you're saying. And Richard's assumption to me was I was trying to, like, he assumed that I sounded like I was trying to be black, which is anybody who knows me personally knows that I'm not trying to sound anything other than the way I sound, the way I talk, and who I am. But if we wanted to get to the core of the issue, maybe some of my dialect or some of the way I talk might sound black to some people, because I am from Louisiana. I am from Deep South Louisiana, the New Orleans area specifically. So I grew up around white and black folks. When I went to school in junior high, and in elementary, it was more blacks than whites in the public school that I went to. Even when I went to Catholic school, though there was more whites, there were still blacks. It wasn't absent of blacks in the Catholic school. They had blacks there too. And the only other people that I grew up with besides whites and blacks growing up that I specifically remember having a lot of people around me was Vietnamese. Back in the 80s, when I was growing up in the early 90s, there still wasn't a lot of Spanish people, but there were Spanish people. But I grew up on the West Bank, and it was less Spanish people, but they still had Spanish people around, but it was just a lot less. I mean, now they do, but there was a lot of black folks, and I had black friends. I grew up, with black friends, but nowhere in my life did I ever think that I have to sound like I'm black. I just sounded like I sounded. I talked like I talked. Now, I have had people make assumptions to me that I had swag, or I was a little hip, or a little cool, or whatever these words that they may use. You got to think I'm older. I came up in the 90s. So in the 80s, it's a little bit different. The time we use different slang. But I've had people say that I'm a little swag, or whatever words they use. assuming that I guess I'm cool or whatever, or my mannerisms, or making assumptions that they could tell I've been around black folks. But never in my life do I want to be anything other than what I am. And I only want to sound like me. See, God created me in his image. That's what the Bible says. That's what I believe. You might believe something different. Cool, whatever. But I believe I was created in God's image as a human being. And I believe I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, according to the Bible, in his image. And I also believe I'm uniquely made, that I'm different than everybody else, and just like you, different than everybody else. And you ain't gonna sound like everybody else, nor should you want to sound like anybody other than yourself. See, Richard is probably a closed-minded, foolish individual who been around just one type of person his whole life, so his mind can't comprehend that there are differences in people. Furthermore, he makes a really stupid statement because he says, this dude has a speech impediment. Nothing about the way I sound steers toward speech impediment. I've never been diagnosed with a speech impediment. I personally, believe me, personally know speech pathologists. I know people who have degrees in speech. More than one I met in my life, been around them. And nobody from the time I was in elementary to the people I know today who are speech pathologists has ever said that I have a speech impediment. So this idiot can't recognize the difference between a speech impediment and a dialect, or even more so, like I've been explained to before, an idiolect, which is the uniqueness that comes from an individual's voice, the way their voice sounds, and the way that they're specifically with their voice pronounce words and pronunciations, right? But this dude is just a dumb idiot. And I thought that, hey, it would be cool once in a while to address some of the comments that I get on my channel. And then I also wanted to just talk regular like I always do. I'm not doing nothing outside the normal. I'm using my same motions, my same expressions, and my same mannerisms right now. And now I'm asking you, after you watch this video, and hopefully you still watched it all the way to this point, does it sound like I am trying to be black? And I'm assuming what this dude's saying is that black people are stupid. Listen, I think they got stupid all people. You know what I mean? Every race has stupid people. But I'm thinking, according to Richard MC Dunn, all black people are just stupid because a white dude is trying to sound like a stupid black dude. That's the assumptions that he's making, in my opinion. You know, I left his comment up on my channel. I don't go through all that deleting comments. You know, you can say what you want. I believe you can say what you want, unless I think people are specifically getting too personal about it, and I can see that they're taking it way too personal. Then I might block it or remove it. But that's the only way. You know, you can say you don't like it, fine, whatever. You don't have to agree. But what do you think? Does it sound like I'm trying to be black? I was in prison in Louisiana. The majority of the prison population is black. Like I said, grew up around black folks. I've been around black folks my whole life. I'm not uncomfortable around black folks. I'm a white, Christian, Asian, mixed man. That's what I say I am every time. I never try to say anything other than that. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I gotta advertise it all the time. But, you know, some people, you know, they feel like they gotta say, hey, I got my black friends. All right, cool. So what? Or even sometimes black folks, they think they got to say, I got my white friends. Also, so what? You know what I mean? They got racist black people. They got racist white people. They got racist Asian people and racist Spanish people. They got racist everything. They got racist Arabs. Around my area, they specifically, you could tell they don't like nobody but themselves. You know what I mean? Some of them are cool, but they got that standoffish, cliquish type attitude. And that's just the way it is. Not to call it out any other way. I ain't got no problem with it. You ain't got to like what I'm saying. But the main thing I'm asking is, do I sound like I'm trying to be black? Yay or nay? Put it in the comments. And while you're at it, give me a like and subscribe to the Pin and the Shank, where if you watch the video this long, you either typed in the comments that you think I sound black or don't sound black or whatever. Even if you do think I sound that way, it doesn't matter to you. You know what I mean? Because I sound the way I sound, and it's okay and you really don't care. And that's the way I think I am and most people are. When someone sounds the way they sound, that's just the way they sound. They don't really care neither. But some people take it personal, and some people accuse you of things that aren't true, and that's the way life is. But like I said, if you like anything crime and prison related, give me a like and subscribe. Throw me that thumbs up. Hit that notification bell and give me, help this channel, The Pen and the Shank, get some traction. I have a lot of unique content, unusual and unique. Go check it out in my library. Watch some of the videos. I promise you're gonna find something entertaining, and you're gonna find something you like. It'll probably give you a laugh or two. But thanks for watching The Pen and the Shank, and let's get it.